Seriously, you gotta be kidding. Having a kid with the guy you broke up with. Oh, is it because you can't forget about me? Thinking maybe if you have a kid, you can't cut ties with me. You actually considered that? Hey, is that it?
It's ridiculous. Looking back now, it was definitely the right decision to break up. If I'd stayed with this daydreamer, I wouldn't have the happiness I have now. Today, I want to talk about this unforgettable dark past of mine and the drama of its reversal. My name is Amy. I'm a 53-year-old housewife who finds joy in leisurely doing housework while watching the morning news. I was 38 at that time. I was living peacefully with my husband Keith, but around that time, a slight air of unease began to flow in our house. Keith started responding to my words with indifference, or rather, a kind of imposing,
So?
or,
And?
when I tried to continue with, so you see,
I'm busy.
he would cut me off with. It felt dismissive, as if I was being treated harshly. He hadn't always been like this. He was more of a chatterbox who would try to make me laugh with his jokes whenever he can. But then, this sudden change, because it was so abrupt, I wondered if I had done something wrong, but I couldn't think of anything. Then one day, I noticed a faint lipstick mark on the back of a shirt Keith had put in the laundry. On the day he wore that shirt, he came home late saying he had to work overtime. I didn't think there would be someone at Keith's all-male workplace who would lean against him with lipstick on. If there was, that would be too weird to even imagine. Could it be a woman? I naturally came to that conclusion, but it was hard to prove anything from a single lipstick stain. He could make up any excuse, like bumping into someone. I decided I needed to gather more evidence and started carefully checking Keith's behavior for any signs of change. Ironically, just being a bit more observant led to a pile of evidence of infidelity showing up. For instance, Keith always got up to use the bathroom around 2 a.m. when I was asleep at night. I had never doubted him before, but it seems that he was actually making calls to a woman during that time in the bathroom. There were times when long hairs came out from the inside of his suit. Also, sometimes when I looked closely at his handkerchief, there were traces of what seemed like wiped-off lipstick. The icing on the cake was when I borrowed Keith's car after a long time and found a tinted lip balm. If Keith had been using a tinted lip balm, that would be another story. But I thought this would be the most irrefutable evidence yet. It was our 10th year of marriage. The frustration of having my husband stolen by a woman out of the blue. The pure loneliness of not wanting to be alone and the love for Keith rekindled. Is it really impossible to make amends? Is there no way to make him come back to me just once more? Is there nothing that can revive something once cooled off? Pregnancy at this timing, it's a gift from God. Needless to say, I couldn't help but think that way. We didn't have any kids. The monotony of our relationship might have been the reason for my husband's infidelity. So, this pregnancy might change things. With that hope in my mind, I revealed my pregnancy to my husband. But then...
What? Give me a break. That's just troublesome. Let's break up.
I couldn't believe my ears. Well, looking back, I suppose I was naive to think he might come back to me. It's rare for a man who's been unfaithful to return. Life doesn't always play out like a TV show or a movie. But back then, I believed that we loved each other and got married so we could surely reconcile. How could you say something like that? It's your baby.
Even a child would be better off without a father like me. You've realized that, haven't you?
Seeing my husband smirk, my heart skipped a beat.
I've been cheating.
Pretending not to know about my husband's affair, planning to go back to normal after the baby, it feels like I had been pushed off a cliff. At that time, I thought, if the affair comes to light, the tension between us will make him not come back. But that was a miscalculation too.
I was trying to let you catch me, doing all sorts of things, but you never said a word. I'm tired of waiting.
What?
I was waiting for you to say, you can't be serious. Let's divorce. Seriously, don't make it more difficult for me.
You're joking, right?
I wouldn't bother lying about something this troublesome. I have a cute 24-year-old girlfriend now. I don't need a 38-year-old who's going to gain weight from pregnancy.
After saying that, my husband added,
If your figure goes pear-shaped, you're out.
And laughed alone. I couldn't laugh at all.
Here, take this. I'll pay alimony or whatever. Just sign this quickly.
What he handed over was a divorce paper. After that, I cried days and nights for 3 days straight, and finally decided to sign the divorce paper when he stopped coming home. 5 years have passed since then. I was scared of getting older and being single, but luckily I remarried my old friend Troy, who also had a divorce, and we've been living modestly with our child. Troy's wife also cheated on him. He too is a survivor of a messy divorce. Being comrades who share the same pain, living with him was very comfortable. Every year on our anniversary, he reserves a fancy restaurant and he gives me slightly expensive gifts for my birthday. I feel cherished. I wish these days could last forever. With that in mind, we celebrated our wedding anniversary again this year. We were supposed to have a fun meal at our usual high-end restaurant.
Wow, it's Amy.
The person who grimaced at the sight of me was my ex-husband. What? What are you doing here? I couldn't help but show my disgust. What a tragedy. I unexpectedly ran into my ex-husband coming out of the restroom.
Just a business dinner. Not like you with that bored look. I'm busy, huh?
My ex-husband's gazed straight over my shoulder and he strode over.
Huh, you had that kid you were pregnant with from me? That's disgusting.
He reached out and pulled at the child's hand, scrutinizing him as he said the unthinkable.
Seriously, you gotta be kidding having a kid with the guy you broke up with. Oh, is it because you can't forget about me? Thinking maybe if you have a kid, you can't cut ties with me? You actually considered that? Hey, is that it?
The ex, grinning from ear to ear, seemed to be thoroughly enjoying spinning the child around on the spot. The child's face contorted into a grimace as he wailed. He started crying. Papa, Mama, help! I'm being taken by a stranger!
Steady there, I'm your papa. Your mama's right there. You're just as stupid as she is,
said my ex. Just as he finished speaking, a man over 6 feet tall appeared behind him and grabbed my ex's arm hard.
That child is mine, you know. What?
I couldn't help but chuckle at my ex's surprised face.
Huh? This guy's Amy's new husband?
I didn't respond to my ex's question.
I don't know what you were talking about, but you can't make a child cry and get away with it, you know.
The tall man glared at my ex. A tattoo peeked out from under his sleeve, and my ex blanched at the sight of it.
Hey, Amy, stop your husband. Huh? That woman is not my wife. What?
At the man's words, my ex looked surprised again, glancing back and forth between me, the man, and the crying child.
Huh? What? Then who's this kid?
Before he knew it, my ex found his arms tied up by the man.
This man is acting suspiciously and being suspicious. Someone call a staff member. There's a man here harming my kid.
The man shouting at the restaurant caused such a commotion. Oh dear, what a way to celebrate a special anniversary. I thought, but I couldn't help but smirk. It had turned out to be a good day, if only by accident. Wait, staff, over here. I saw this man forcibly grab a child's arm. At my words, my ex's mouth fell open.
Wait, Amy, what's going on? I really don't get it.
I told my frantic ex. I'm not his wife, and that child is not mine. And certainly not yours.
But he was right behind you.
You were standing in the narrow entrance of the restroom. The child couldn't get in because of you. He just followed his dad to the restroom and you got in his way.
What?
Ugh, you probably enjoy making fun of people, but you really need to stop jumping to conclusions. Perhaps you should be aware of your surroundings.
What? Shut up. I don't need to hear that from you.
Of course, my valuable words probably wouldn't reach a suspicious person like you.
I told you, I'm not suspicious.
Oh yeah? A man who approaches a random child, grabs their arm, and then starts talking in a baby talk saying, "I'm your daddy," isn't suspicious at all? You gotta be kidding me.
That's because...
Then you have the nerve to say to the woman in front of you, "Your mom is over there, right? Do you still think we're a couple?" As I say this with a smirk, my ex-husband Keith turns bright red and yells,
"Stop messing with me."
However, as Keith gets louder, the man restraining him tightens his grip.
Ouch! Hey, mister, let me go. I'm innocent.
How are you innocent? You undeniably made our precious son cry.
That's a misunderstanding.
Before Keith could finish, I cut him off with, "The fact is, you misunderstood and laid your hands on someone else's child, right?" In response, Keith glared at me and said,
You...
"Ew, I've been glared at by a suspicious person. Scary." I say this in a deliberately cute voice, and it seems to rub Keith the wrong way. He starts to attempt to escape from the man's grip. "You're so deluded, you even think we're still a couple. Oh, perhaps you couldn't forget about me?" I purposefully repeat the accusation Keith had made earlier. As expected, Keith becomes enraged, and sensing the danger, the man throws him to the ground and straddles his back.
You really thought you could escape from me?
While the man might be trying to lightly intimidate him, the tattoo adds a layer of genuine scariness. Keith must have thought,
this might be the end of me. Hey, Amy, tell them it was a misunderstanding.
And as I've said, pulling on a stranger's child's hand is not a misunderstanding at all.
I thought it was my kid.
Upon hearing Keith's childish pleading in a half-crying voice, I burst into laughter. Claiming he's your kid when you haven't even acknowledged him and haven't paid any child support?
Huh?
Did we ever talk about recognition or child support after our divorce, Keith?
Well, I wouldn't have acknowledged him even if you did. You knew that, and that's why you never contacted me, right?
Don't be stupid. Why would I do such a thing when I'm raising a child by myself? I'd hunt you down until you pay.
Huh? But then why?
You see, the pregnancy test turned out to be a false positive. When I went to the OBGYN, they told me I wasn't pregnant, and that solidified my decision to sign the divorce papers. Yes, during those 3 days when we started discussing divorce and Keith didn't return home, it's true that I spent these days crying. But I knew I couldn't just divorce without understanding the full situation, especially with a child involved, so I went to the OBGYN first. Even if we were to divorce, I wanted to get a grasp of alimony, child support, future living expenses. I wanted to sort all these things in my mind. I even thought about enduring the hardship if it would benefit my child. But at the OBGYN, there were no signs of pregnancy. Instead, they found a tumor in my ovaries. When I went through the surgery for the tumor, I happened to share a hospital room with the mother of my current husband. I was childhood friends with my husband, so I knew both his parents. When he came to visit his mom at the hospital, we reunited and became close again. Once, I thought of my pregnancy at this time as a gift from God, meant to ensure things would work out with my husband. However, it turned out to be a blessing in disguise that led me to realize that breaking up with my husband was the right decision. It also allowed me to find someone who truly cared for me, and led to the early discovery of an illness. Despite having one of my ovaries removed last year, I gave birth to a child with my current husband. Although it may seem like I have been through a lot of hardships, in reality, everything turned out to be a series of blessings for me. Upon learning everything, my ex-husband paled and muttered,
"No way, I was dumped by her?"
It goes without saying that I couldn't help but laugh at his realization that he was dumped. Well, a young girl wouldn't want to be with an aging man like him. At that moment, a police officer appeared. Apparently, someone from the restaurant had called him. My ex-husband was given a stern warning by the police. He managed to avoid further trouble by sincerely apologizing to the family of the child once the misunderstanding was cleared. Perhaps being thoroughly reprimanded by the police was a severe blow to him. He even came to apologize to me. My ex-husband doesn't know where I currently live, so he actually visited my parents' home and expressed his apologies to my mother.
"I made the worst possible exit. I was wrong,"
he said. Growing older, being dumped by his lover, and no longer being wanted by anyone seems to have broken his spirit. He appears to be experiencing the loneliness of not having anyone to comfort him. But even though he apologized now, I really couldn't care less. I continued to ignore my ex-husband. If we hadn't met there, honestly, I would have forgotten about him long ago. On that day, we ran into each other. My current husband noticed I hadn't returned to our table for a while and came to check on me in the restroom. But he thought
this might be Amy's first and last chance to get back at her ex-husband.
So he decided to watch the situation from the shadows.
Of course, I would have stepped in if anything happened, but the guy who was restraining him was just so strong.
Oh, that guy? He's apparently a returnee, and he was a football team captain in America.
Well, that explains his strength. I wouldn't have stood a chance. I was scared, thinking he was some sort of tough guy.
Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh along with him. I admit I wasn't strong when we got divorced. Despite everything, all I did back then was to divorce him at his request, and received a modest alimony payment from him and his lover. Things don't always go smoothly like in fairy tales, so it was impossible to get a huge alimony payment. I also didn't have the strength to resist. But I was able to finally stand my ground and speak my mind to my ex-husband, and I think that allowed me to become truly strong. Now I can finally face my husband and my child without any guilt. Coincidentally, the day of my marriage anniversary this year became the day of my new beginning. And now my husband has become a freelance architect and has doubled his income, allowing me to quit my part-time job and enjoy my life as a stay-at-home mom. My slightly rebellious daughter grumbles when I ask her to do things, but she quietly helps out when I don't ask. Only my husband and I know about her loving nature. Although I had a late-life pregnancy and only have one daughter, our family, along with our 2 dogs, makes for quite the lively household. Despite never having children with my ex-husband, I was able to get pregnant with only 1 ovary and give birth even at an advanced age with my current husband. I can't help but think this is in some way fate. The dream of marrying the special destined one that I had since I was a child came true in an unexpected way through remarriage. Just some dreamy thoughts that I entertain from time to time. And with that, I am here cherishing the everyday happiness that is anything but ordinary.